Well, hi, this is Lance. Today we're having a look at this. You can't see it right now, but I'll show it to you in a minute. This is a Samsung Odyssey Neo G9 57-inch super ultra-wide monitor. A mouthful, to say the least. Let me just back up a little bit here and you can see what I'm talking about. This monitor is basically two 32-inch 4K monitors sitting side by side in both resolution and size. I'm not going to do a very technical, in-depth review. There are plenty of people that do that far better than I do. What I'm going to do is basically go through all the good points, the bad points that I've picked up. I've had this for about 6 months now. And exactly why I don't use this for gaming. It pains me just to say those words, but for a 2,200 euro monitor, that is a fairly big deal. But it's a great monitor for work, and that is exactly what I use it for. So let's go over the basics. As you can see, it's a monster. The weight for this monster is just over, without the stand now, just over 15.4 kilograms. With the stand, it is 19 kilograms. So it's a heavy monitor, which actually brought up a bit of a problem for me because it was exceptionally hard to find an arm that it can actually support this, because the stand that it comes with it's huge. It takes up so much of your desk that it's actually not even practical to have it on, as far as I'm concerned, unless you have a real monster of a desk. I've got one of these, as you can see, one of these corner desks. It's a sit-stand desk. I couldn't mount it against a wall or anything like that, but I wanted it on an arm so that I could move it around. And the arm that I'm using is a Secret Labs arm. It was one of the few that, when I bought this monitor, could support the weight of this monitor. There since has been other monitors which I've seen come out on Amazon, which are cheaper. I haven't tested any of them because I haven't had the need to. And quite honestly, at the difference in price, I would be skeptical how long they would last. The dimensions of this monitor are 132 centimeters by 40, let's call it 43 centimeters by 34 centimeters deep. But let me show you the arm itself. If we go around the back here, you'll see I've got this very messy arm mounted onto my table and then going across there. And it's also got these nice handles that protrude both the bottom and the top, which is very good for, you know, manipulating the monitor and moving it around. Okay, let's get the basic spec out the way. As I said, this is not going to be a technical review, so if you do want the in-depth color accuracy, etc. for this monitor, I can recommend some channels, which I'll put some links below. The basic resolution of this monitor is 7680 by 2160, but there's a caveat to that. The monitor has two modes. It has 120 Hertz and a 240 Hertz. It's advertised as a 240 Hertz monitor, and I'm sure it can do 240 Hertz. I have yet to see 240 Hertz with this monitor, simply because there are no cards at the time. Well, when I got this monitor, there was no cards that could have, that had a DisplayPort 2.1. Now, of course, we have the 5 series GPUs and the newer card from AMD, which all support DisplayPort 2.1. Of course, now you do have the cards which support DisplayPort 2.1, but I as yet have not got one of those. So what I can tell you is that it is capable of doing 240 Hertz. I have tried various workarounds, right down to a cable, which I still use today, plugs into my Mac's Thunderbolt 5 port, which is quite capable of driving a DisplayPort at that. And I plugged it into the DisplayPort 2.1, which this cable, as I said, is capable and has been tested for this. The problem being is that obviously OS X doesn't understand 240 Hertz at that resolution. So I could get that resolution, the full resolution of basically 8K by 2K, but I could only get it as high as 120 Hertz using that cable. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm just going to show you some of the resolution that you can actually achieve. We're going to be doing this with a Mac M4 Max. So first of all, we got the the full resolution, which is, as you can see there, 17680 by 2160. So that is the capable resolution of this screen, the full resolution, sorry. And you got various scaling options, although the scaling options for the Mac seem to be quite weird. You either go from stupidly massive to, you know, the full resolution, which is everything is this big. So I don't know if that, again, I didn't have this problem on a Windows, so it must be a Mac specific thing. And it's running at 120 Hertz. You can use it, in fact, in this mode, you can actually have it variable from 48 to 120 or 120 or 60. So those are your two selections. And I'm running it through the HDMI 2.1 port that's built into the MacBook Pro. I've got this cable here, which is a Thunderbolt to DisplayPort 2.1. I'm going to plug this into the Thunderbolt 5 port on the Mac, and I'm then going to switch the screen, if it'll allow me, to picture-in-picture, or in this case, picture-by-picture. And then, because it wants to be full of nonsense, we'll go and we'll set the left, and then we'll go and set the right, and there we go, finally. And if we open up our systems menu, again, here you see the scaling issue. What I've got this here is I've got a 5K by 2K, 5K by 2K, and a little 2.5K section over there. Let's go and see. Okay, so you can see the left-hand portion is actually running 2560 by 2160, and the right-hand portion is horribly scaled, but can run at 5120 by 2160. I normally scale it a little bit so that at least everything isn't minutely small. As you can see, that section is running at 120 Hertz and that section is running at 120 Hertz. But the problem I had before was that depending on, excuse me, depending on which side you've got the HDMI 2.1 pointing to and which side you've got the DisplayPort pointing to, is whether it'll allow, and again, I think this is a Mac problem, not the specific to this monitor, it'll allow 60 Hertz only on the smaller portion of the screen and 120 on the other portion. But in this case, what I've done is I've switched them around, so the DisplayPort is actually this portion and the HDMI is that portion, and now it's quite okay. It's happily giving me 120 Hertz both sides. So it's a bit finicky, you have to play around with it a bit. And then what I'll do now is I will just switch these sides. So you can do this at any time with the screen, which is quite nice. So if you want, you know, if you don't have them equally split, or if you're not having it in the full resolution, you can change the side. You see them on modes here. I don't know if you can see that there, but on modes, I can actually switch them out to have the bigger portion on the left and the smaller portion on the right, or as it is now, the bigger portion on the right and the smaller portion on the left. So we'll quickly switch that out just to demonstrate. So the smaller portion now, because this is now the HDMI, it won't allow it to do 120 Hertz. This is now only 60 Hertz. If I switch them again, the ports arrangement, which you can do at any time, which is quite nice, it'll give me both 120 Hertz on both sides again. And obviously you do have the standard where you can just set half the screen as 4K and the other half is 4K, 16 by 9, and you have two equal screens. And on the Mac side, both of them will run at 120 Hertz because it understands that, and both the HDMI 2.1 and this DisplayPort seems to agree that 16 by 9 is okay, we'll give you 120 Hertz. You can see that you actually have the availability to do a 16 by 9 or a widescreen with two little pieces next to each other, or a widescreen in the middle with two little pieces on either side of it, and variations of that, as well as picture in picture instead of the picture by picture, which is what we're playing with at the moment. It is amazing some of the weird and wonderful ways that you can split the screen up. If there's one good thing I can say about the screen, it is bright. It is very bright. Being a VA panel, you do lose a lot of that punchy colors that it's capable of if you move off axis. It's got a 1000R curve, which is a decent curve for a monitor of this size. And quite honestly, I don't think anything less of a curve than that would be suitable for something this size. So if you're getting in close enough that it's all-encompassing, it's a beautiful screen and it's very bright, and you can actually get it color accurate. I've managed to color calibrate it to pretty close to what I need it for, which is, you know, making videos and making training material and that type of thing. It has all the basics. It's got a KVM switch in it. It has 3 HDMI 2.1 ports as well as that DisplayPort 2.1. There's no support for Thunderbolt or anything like that. Okay, let's get down to why I don't use it for gaming. It's not that it's not great for gaming. It is the most immersive thing that I've ever seen. Unfortunately, it's very much a I've been spoilt scenario more than it's a bad monitor, because it's most definitely not a bad monitor. It's a very expensive monitor. At the time of making this, it cost me 2,199 euros. That's a lot of money. You can buy some really nice monitors for under that. However, if you have a look over there, excuse the plaster, over there, you'll see that there is a 4K 240 Hertz 32-inch OLED monitor, and that's my gaming monitor. So I go over there and I go and do my gaming in the evenings or whenever I game, and it's 240 Hertz and it's 4K, which is plenty for any games I play. I'm most definitely not a competitive gamer. I'm way too old for that. So that is really the only reason that I don't game on this monitor. Literally the only reason is that I've been spoiled by OLED. If I could get something like this in OLED, I would probably have to sell a kidney to get it or to afford it, but I would definitely consider it, because then it is everything that I love about this monitor, plus everything that I love about that monitor. And you roll that all into one screen that I can choose whatever aspect ratios I want to play at, right from 32:9 down to 16:9, and I'd be a happy camper. Please don't forget that I will put in links down below. There are affiliate links for this monitor and anything else that we've discussed, like the arm. That won't be an affiliate link, but I'll put links down for it so that you can actually go and have a look at it if it's interesting to you. I hope you enjoyed this very unconventional review. If you did, please do all those fancy YouTube things, the like, subscribes, and hitting bells and all those things. And I will catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.